Welcome to the Fabulous Lifestyle Radio Show, where we talk about food, fashion, finance, and foundations of life. We are live on KCAA Radio Broadcasting Network. KCAA is affiliated with CNBC, NBC News, and NBC Sport. We are sponsored by Sheltered Studios, Fire Connect, and Building Solid Foundation.
Welcome back, everyone. Our guest today is Ashby and Maris Segal, and we have been discussing mastering connected relationships at home and work. And we explored the R factor and at least two of the tenets, and we're going to explore the other two as well. And again, we also talked about how relationship marketing, how critical it is to all businesses, and how much money is spent in ensuring that the relationships that businesses have with their customers, that they are really watching it and maintaining it and ensuring that they continue to be trustworthy with their customers and that nature. And so I would like to now talk about the reframing and resilience part of the R factor.
Yeah, absolutely. So in the rhythm, this idea of reframing, in the rhythm of reframing, we lead with gratitude. We accept the traumas from our past without letting them limit us. And we meet people where they are. We honor feedback as neutral. So sometimes people can give us feedback and we take it very personally, as opposed to accepting it as neutral, as a way to move forward. So this rhythm of reframing is a powerful tool, and it's really a tool to look at what's happening in your life and ask yourself, is it important for me to reframe it? For instance, you wake up in the morning and you think about your day and you've got a whole list of things and you say, oh my God, this day is going to be terrible. It's going to be so busy and so packed. And you start bringing that into your body. So what about just reframing that and looking at your day and saying, okay, there's great opportunities to learn here today. I may not want to do some of the things, but at least I could learn something from them, and turning it around and reframing it into a way of gratitude and a way of looking at your day in a positive way. That's just one idea of reframing. Another idea of reframing is looking at maybe some old stories that you've been telling yourself for years, for decades.
Guilty.
Decades. You've been telling yourself these old stories. Yeah. So we have a exercise where we take people back and say, let's go back to that moment. Let's go back and just, without putting any ideas on it, what happened? So the door closed, I caught my hand in the door, and that's what happened. My mom was closing the door and she caught my hand in the door. It was an accident. She didn't mean to do it, but maybe I put a story on it that, oh, my mom, this is kind of a bad example, but my mom is not treating me well. My mom doesn't love me, or whatever, because those moments have no meaning. We experience something, it has no meaning. We put the meaning on it. So this idea of reframing, if we can turn our day around by reframing to gratitude as opposed to overwhelm, we can reframe stories from our past that now begin to support us.
And I think the other thing also in the area of reframing, when we think about our relationships in business and our relationships at home, it really, if we are truly standing in respect and responsibility, we are present. That means we are literally really listening to someone else. We're not listening to them to really figure out what we're going to say next. We're really listening to them. And that really is about respect and responsibility. If that's truly where we're sitting with someone, then we're really hearing where they're coming from and seeing their perspective. And when it comes to business and family and community, think about how reframing actually helps get a team more aligned and connected. How does reframing work in a family when everybody wants to go to Disney World, for instance, and mom and dad perhaps say, you know what? this year that might not work out. The funds may not be there. Let's go do it next year. And there's disappointment. But for the children, for the kids and the family to then really reframe it and to acknowledge where mom and dad are coming from. One, they involved us in the process, and mom and dad now gave us an alternative, and everybody gets to be heard and feel valued in the conversation. So reframing in our business and our personal lives is really important. It's part of how we actually navigate what's possible in a negotiation, in a situation, right? And that's being also present.
And it's a choice.
Absolutely. We have a choice
Reframing
all
is
day.
a choice.
Yep.
And corporations go through this with branding. How are you rebranding? They go through a rebranding process. This rebranding is much like reframing. It's reframing how you see the world.
Perspective
how the world
and
sees
positioning.
you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I like that.
Absolutely.
And
Then the last, you want us to go on to resilience, our fourth
Yes,
rhythm?
please. Yes.
Okay. So I don't know if you're seeing this, but this is literally creating what we call the relationship rhythm circle, the R factor circle. And the idea is that all of these work together. And when they are all in sync and all working, then we are prospering. When they are not, when one of them is out of sync, is not in rhythm, we have challenges, right? So in the rhythm of resilience, and this is a given, no matter what, there's always going to be change in our lives, right? I think the two things we know in our lives, there's always going to be death. There's always going to be change without question. How we operate in that change is really, again, choices that determine our future. So when you look at the rhythm of resilience, we step forward, we stand up. Like, I don't know about you, but when I have fallen down in the water before and the waves come rushing around me, what did I do right away? I certainly didn't stay in the water and let the water drown me. I immediately stood up, right? So in the rhythm of resilience, we stand up, we step forward with consistent action, and we seek and appreciate support that we get from other people. So resilience is not a lone wolf game. And from someone who's been a recovering lone wolfer, that was probably the biggest lesson for me, was to recognize I don't have to do it alone. And resilience, I know, I'm telling, well, you and
wolf too.
Exactly. Right. There you go. And you and I have talked a little bit about our strength and where we stand and really having that strength be problem solvers. And when we're in a resilient space, in the end, it's really about how we respond versus react to something, how we accept support, how we face something with courage, right? And the bottom line is it's about consistency. It's about being supported. And it's always about recognizing, no matter what, literally recognizing what is happening in our lives. And we talk about when things are challenging in our lives or we're feeling emotional, we coach our clients in business and personal that we face it. So we literally look at whatever's happening for us and we face it. Freely acknowledge current emotion. Face. So we face it and we say, I see you. I'm feeling really crappy about this right now. And we acknowledge it and then send it to the curb, because in that space, it does not serve us. And part of resilience is being in that recognition and rising through it so that we can keep stepping forward.
Well, I'm going to tell you, you got me totally thinking about face on what resilience, because most people take resilience as just an individual, characteristic that, is all like within us. And so I'm just sort of sitting here listening to you. I'm like, oh my God, like, And then just about like in being resilient and being open to having support so that we can get through. I've just never heard it spoken about that way.
Yeah. And it's an interesting thing too with teams, because one of the things that we all find, and look, the pandemic pause was a big one, right? Mm-hmm. And so as teams were getting back to work and we're kind of hybrid and we're not hybrid and we've got people, expectations is a huge issue and resilience is a huge issue, because we're even dealing with some of our business clients right now. And we're talking about how have you acknowledged the resilience it has taken, right, for your teams to come out of their family environment and step back into work, for them to choose that they're going to live in a hybrid situation. Resilience is not often something that is also recognized. It gets to be recognized as part of our process. We are resilient as a country. Look at what we've done to step forward in this situation as a globe. We're all connected as humans first, and that's where the bottom line begins. So as a globe, as a world, we've really all gotten to be resilient coming out of the pandemic, because there's been death, there's been loss of work, there's been loss of money, all kinds of things. So it's a big lesson in all of this: respect, responsibility, reframing, and resilience.
I would just add to resilience that really resilience would not be important except for one thing. The most common thing, the most certain thing we have is change. Everything changes all the time. We have exchange. So when we're in our comfort zone, we don't have to be resilient. We can just be in our comfy comfort zone. When things change, it affects our comfort zone, and we may have to step outside of it. That's where resilience comes into play.
And it might be uncomfortable, and that's okay.
And it could be uncomfortable, but we're expanding our comfort zone by doing that and standing up resilient.
And very often it's where our greatest growth comes from, right? So we know that, look, relationships can't be avoided, right? Not at all. We're in them 24/7, from the time our alarm clock goes off to the time the dog jumps on the bed, to the time our kids need to be fed, to the time I need to be fed. That's all before we ever even get to the office, right? So when we think about being in relationship immersion, which is what the R factor is, the pieces of these 4 rhythms, when they are working together in one life, in one body, they create this prosperity. They create this master connection and a flow that really works in sync. And in the work we've done in literally interviewing like hundreds of people from, celebs and heads of state, heads of household, all of our clients we've worked with over the years, these are the 4 key rhythms that we've seen come forward. And it works in our relationship too. I mean, we're together 24/7. We work together 24/7. We live together 24/7, as we said, and how we operate in that and the choices that we make are literally centered on these 4 key rhythms. And we've seen them really succeed in all environments.
Wow. I'm pretty sure the audience is going to be just blown away from these 4 tenets of the R factor. And so we're going to take another commercial break, and then we'll come back and we'll wrap up our interview with you. But I'm really excited to talk just a little bit more about the R factor and then some of the other great things that you have going on as well.
Welcome to the Fabulous Lifestyle Radio Show, where we talk about food, fashion, finance, and foundations of life. We are live on KCAA Radio Broadcasting Network. KCAA is affiliated with CNBC, NBC News, and NBC Sports. We are sponsored by Sheltered Studios, Fire Connect, and Building Solid Foundation.